I didn't argue when my father told me to move out of my bedroom. The baby needs that room more than you. He said it the way someone might explain the weather. Calm, practical, as if there were only one reasonable answer. My stepmother stood beside him with her phone raised. "People will think this is sweet," she said with a laugh. "Big sibling making a sacrifice." I wasn't a big sibling, I was 14. She recorded me folding my blankets into a cardboard box, then uploaded the video to the family group chat. Before she pressed send, I caught a glimpse of the screen, 12 relatives. I wondered how many would watch before dinner. No one asked what I thought. The storage room had no window. Half the floor was covered with plastic bins filled with Christmas decorations and old clothes. There was just enough space for a narrow folding cot. I carried my books there first, then my backpack, then the framed picture of my mother, who had died when I was 9. Everything else suddenly felt optional. I heard my stepmother laughing downstairs as replies started appearing in the chat. "So generous. What a mature kid. So nice to see everyone making room for the baby." Nobody had seen the part before the recording started. Nobody had heard my father say, "You'll manage." Silence was easier than trying to explain. I finished unpacking in less than an hour. Exactly 58 minutes after I'd carried my last box into the storage room, headlights swept across the driveway. I looked through the narrow crack beside the basement door. A dark sedan stopped outside. My father's shoulders stiffened the moment he saw it. He knew whose car it was. 90 seconds later, both he and my stepmother were calling my name, not the irritated way they usually did, but with voices sharpened by panic. I climbed the stairs slowly. Standing at the front door was my aunt, my mother's older sister. Beside her stood a Child Protective Services caseworker. Neither looked angry. They looked prepared. My aunt met my eyes first. "Are you okay?" I nodded automatically. The caseworker didn't ask anyone to sit down. Instead, she introduced herself, explained why she was there, and requested to see where I was sleeping. My father tried to smile. "It's only temporary." The caseworker didn't respond. She simply asked, "May I see the room?" No one spoke as we walked downstairs. She looked at the folding cot, the stacked boxes, the missing window. She took notes without comment. Then she asked where my previous bedroom was. The nursery was already painted. New furniture filled the space where my desk had been. The crib stood exactly where my bed used to be. My father began explaining again. "The baby," she gently interrupted. "I understand the baby needs a room." Then she looked at him steadily. "So does your 14-year-old." The house became very quiet. My stepmother finally admitted she'd filmed everything. She tried to laugh it off. It was just for family. My aunt asked to see the video. The group chat was still open. Nobody had expected the recording to matter. The caseworker watched it once. Then she asked a few calm questions. When had I been told? Where had I slept the previous night? Had anyone discussed alternatives? Every answer seemed to make the room smaller. No one raised their voice. No one needed to. Eventually, the caseworker closed her notebook. She explained that the immediate concern was making sure I had appropriate living conditions while the situation was reviewed. My aunt quietly said, "You can stay with me." For the first time that afternoon, someone had offered me a choice. I looked at my father. He looked exhausted more than angry. Maybe this was the first time he'd seen the situation through someone else's eyes. Maybe not. I picked up my backpack. It wasn't much heavier than it had been an hour earlier. Before leaving, I walked back to the storage room one last time. I took the framed picture of my mother from the shelf. That was the only thing I made sure not to leave behind. Outside, the evening air felt cooler than I remembered. My aunt opened the passenger door. "You don't have to say anything right now," she said softly. I climbed in. As we pulled away, I glanced back once. The house looked exactly the same. But it no longer felt like somewhere I had to convince anyone I belonged. Sometimes nothing changes because you finally find the perfect words. Sometimes everything changes because someone finally asks the right questions.